Everybody, it's Dr. Eric Balcouch. We're back for another edition of Thyroid Thursday, and today we're doing another discussion of calculating the fT3 to fT4 ratio. A lot of questions, a lot of confusion as to how to do it, so we're going to have another video kind of explain this. So why is this fT3 fT4 ratio so important? Well, we don't really have great indicators of what's happening inside the cell and tissue. When we're measuring fT4, fT3, that's measuring what's in the bloodstream. It's not really telling us what's happening inside the cells and tissues. However, if we look at the fT3 to fT4 ratio, we can kind of get an idea of how good a job the cells and tissues are converting T4 to T3. Keep in mind that most of the thyroid hormone that's made, all of the T4 that's made by the body is made at the thyroid gland. It's not made in the peripheral tissue. So if you have T4 in your bloodstream, it's either coming from your gland or you're taking a medication. T3 is a little bit different. Most of the T3 that is in circulation in the body is not being made at the thyroid gland. Small percentage is being made at the gland, maybe 5 to 10 micrograms, and then the rest of the 20 to 25 micrograms is being made by the peripheral tissues. And so when there is a true hypothyroid state, there's not enough thyroid hormone in the system, and the cells really want more thyroid hormone, you'll have an elevated TSH, you'll typically have a lower T4, and T3 levels will be higher. They may be low in general because there's not much T4 available, but the ratio of fT3 to fT4 will be really high because as fast as the body's making T4, the cells need it, so they're converting that T4 to T3. Also, what's really important here is we can see when we look at a fT3 to fT4 ratio and we see it really elevated, that might be an indication that this is a person who might need more thyroid hormone, okay? So, it's a great way to take a look at what's going on, because some people just look at T3 and fT4, fT3 and say, hey, if these are in the optimal range, then we've optimized the person. But even if both values were in the optimal range, we can look at the fT3 to fT4 ratio and we can see this person really doesn't do a very good job converting T4 to T3, or an optimal job, as some people would like to say. The other thing we have to take into consideration is the medication somebody's on. If somebody is on a T3 medication in any form, it's going to skew the values, because what you're measuring isn't what the cells are converting, you're measuring what the person is probably taking. And the timing of when you took your medication to the timing of the blood draw for your lab test is going to really influence this as well. So one of the reasons I really like when we're trying to help somebody get well, to recover a thyroid gland, I really like them to be on T4 only most times. Maybe if they've had their gland removed, a very small amount of T3 that would kind of duplicate what the thyroid gland would have made naturally. Now, if somebody's on a T3 medication and they feel and function good, I don't care, that's great. But when we're trying to recover the gland, when we're trying to recover normal function, manipulating the physiology with T3, I think, is problematic, okay? So what you need to do to calculate this ratio is you're gonna need your fT3 and your fT4 in the same units. So if you're in Europe, your units might be a little different. If you're in the States, it's gonna be a little different. Typically, when I calculate this ratio, and you see this ratio of 0.1 to 0.34, that's using picomoles per liter. So how do you get that? If your labs aren't already in picomoles per liter, how do you get them in picomoles per liter? There's two great websites you can use. One is called unitslab.com. You just go in there, type in fT3, it'll come up, and then you plug in your value under whatever units category you have your labs show the units in, and then it'll spit it out into all the other units. So then you can pick, hey, I want it in picomoles per liter, that's the number. If you can also use Optimal DX. They have a great website, lots of calculators on there, and they do have a fT3, fT4 calculator on there, but they use different units. They don't use picomoles per liter, so their ratio is going to be different. So if you want to use their calculator, it makes it easy. I think you can just punch your numbers in I'm not really sure how it works. I just know that it didn't use the same units, and they did some behind the scenes calculations. I think it should be in the same units. So you can use either one of these. Optimal DX still has a converter, so if you put in fT3, your value for fT3, and use the units you have, it'll convert it to picomoles per liter, okay? Once you have the like units, right? Here's an example. fT4 in a US lab, it's nanograms per deciliter, 1.08 nanograms per deciliter. Some people would say that's in the optimal range. In picomoles per liter, it's 13.9018. For fT3 in the US, this one's is 2.7 picograms per milliliter. That would be functionally low from a lot of standards. It would be in the lab reference range, however. And if we convert that picograms per milliliter to picomoles per liter, it's 4.1475. Now, we just divide 4.1475 by 13.9018, and we get a ratio of 0.30. So this person is under converting T4 to T3. So there's three big possibilities that could be going on here, and it's possible that you could have all three of these things going on at the same time. Too much T4. So how do we make that decision? Well, we can look at the rest of the panel and we can get some insight into that. What's reverse T3 look like? What's TSH look like? What medications they are? This is where you really want to work with a practitioner who understands this stuff to be able to figure out which one of these options it is. Could the person have a cell stress response going on? Meaning there's some type of infection, some danger physiology, toxin, organism, hypoxia, emotional stress trauma that's causing the cells to sense danger and adaptively down-regulating the conversion of T4 to T3. This isn't broken physiology, it's adaptive. So in that situation, do we want to put more T4 into the system than we need? The answer is no. The third is there are some people, it's not as many people as I hear sometimes functional medicine practitioners say, but there is a small percentage of the population, somewhere around 15% of the population, have a polymorphism that could reduce their conversion of T4 by as much as 20%. So how do we know if that's the issue? You can do genetic panel, genomic insight from Diagnostic Solutions. In their genetic packet, they do test for a bunch of genes that are associated with thyroid physiology. So if you use their panel, you can get find out if you have those gene polymorphisms. And that doesn't necessarily mean you need to take T3 medication, but it might indicate that, hey, that ratio is only going to be so good, and you might be a person who might need some additional T3. Might, not necessarily have to. So one of the things that's a big caution here, if you're taking T3 in any form, medication, I said this at the onset, that will skew the ratios. So you're not really measuring the T3 that your cells and tissues are converting, you're measuring the T3 you're taking. So that can really skew the values. It can make these ratios look either normal or high, like it might indicate you might get a high ratio thinking that, oh, I'm hypothyroid and I need more medication. You maybe not. Remember, T3 skews the results. What I do in people who are on T3 medication is you have to do a bit of interpretation here. But one of the things you can do, especially, is look at the ratios. If the medication was the same from test to test, then you can look at those ratios and say, hey, did the ratio get better recently with the things we've done away from the medications? If you've worked on gut physiology or something else and that ratio has gotten better, that's fantastic. Then you're on the right track for improving that cellular conversion. If you have any questions, put them below wherever you saw this video. Hopefully this helps.